Because I always say people who haven't healed are 99% likely to choose the wrong person. All right? Because where we have to begin is that the lack of healing, once we get hurt, we got hurt because we were in a vulnerable situation. We put our feelings out there, we let our heart out. And once we've been hurt, now we don't want to go through that again, subconsciously or consciously. And so now what happens is we consciously or subconsciously choose people who are quote unquote good enough to be with, but they don't really make us that vulnerable. They don't scare us. It's where we can maintain emotional control. So essentially we're now making the safe picks. And the safe pick is almost always the wrong pick. All right? And so this now starts to cycle down the wrong path. We also become afraid to, again, put ourselves out there and apply ourselves where we find other aspects of life to hide behind. As I mentioned earlier, hiding behind God, hiding behind career. But in reality, we just don't want to put ourselves out there and be vulnerable again. You see what I'm saying? So the lack of healing just really starts us down a path of making the wrong choices. And instead of fixing the issue, we're trying to throw Band-Aids on it. And we're just making things worse.
Wow. So to those of us who are saying, okay, you're right. I put a Band-Aid on it. And I'm going to be honest with you, Stephan, AO on the channel. I won't tell nobody else, but I'm not healed. And, you know, how do I start the process of healing from my past?
All right. So step number one is what I call the who hurt me list.
Okay.
So you get a piece of paper, you write down the paper, who hurt me?
Okay.
Ask yourself that question, and anyone who comes to mind, put them on the paper.
Wow.
It doesn't matter if you think you moved past it. It doesn't matter if it happened a long time ago. If they come to mind, just put them on the paper. This is how we're going to start to identify the pain.
Okay.
A lot of people don't realize if you do this list, there's going to be people that come out that you were suppressing this entire time.
Yeah.
But at least now we can put it out in front of us, because that's the big problem is people are in denial of their lack of healing. They're in denial of the trauma they're holding on to. But this list helps us, again, see it in front of us. And you're going to put their name down and like a couple sentences of what they did to hurt you.
Okay.
And so now we can take that and move on to the next steps to get the healing going.
Okay. And what's the next step? I'm curious.
All right. So I'm going to give the next step. And let me just mention, I do have a book called Love After Heartbreak that lays everything out. I'm not going to lie. It can be tough. It is tough because a lot of people are holding on to so much, and getting all that out is a heavy process, but it is extremely worth it.
But I think the first step is hard, though.
Absolutely.
Because I got to write down, that could be a family member. You know, that could be an ex, like you said, ex-relationship. I think we should write down everyone who hurt.
It's everyone. It doesn't matter if it's family, friends, lovers. It's everyone. Ooh, that's why it's who hurt me list, not who hurt me as a lover list. Who hurt me, period. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the other thing people are not understanding. Your struggles are not just due to past relationship hurt. Yeah. It could be childhood trauma. You know what I'm saying? It could be things that go beyond that. You can't just try to keep it in the relationship box, because now you're not doing all the work you need to do. So you got to lay all that out. And then I'll give the first half of this next step.
Cool.
So you'll pick somebody from that list. Okay. And let's just say you have your mother on there. Yeah. And I always love using mothers because the world talks about daddy issues, but I would argue there's more people with mommy issues than daddy issues right now, okay? And because society says, how dare you say a woman is a bad mother, that gets suppressed and pushed aside. But it's go at your father all day long, you know what I'm saying? Call him all kinds of names.
Right.
So anyways, a lot of people have this issue with their mom. So you put the mom on the list. You're going to write her a letter. There's 2 drafts of the letter. The first draft is just you letting everything out. All your anger, hurt, rage, whatever you're holding on to. Because what people don't realize is you've suppressed all this negative emotion. It's not going anywhere. It's trapped within your body. And now it's wreaking havoc on your body.
Wow.
A lot of people developing diseases, cancers, is because of emotional stress. And stress is the inducer of disease. It is that trigger. You see what I'm saying? So if you don't de-stress, you don't release, you're going to have a problem at some point. So you've got to let it out. So the first draft of the letter is like an emotional detox. It's a way to pour everything out, because people will say, well, I talked to them before. Yeah, but even in talking, you didn't let everything out. A lot of times we hold back. We're trying to manage the situation. I don't want you managing nothing. Let it rip. You see what I'm saying? That's the first draft. We got other steps to the process to clean it all up. But that first draft, just let it out. Just doing that, you're going to feel the weight come off your shoulders. You're going to feel a lot better.
Now, what's the name of this book to where, for those of us who are in this process and I need to do this and then some, what's the name of the book? How can they get it?
Love After Heartbreak. You can get it on my store, StephanSpeakShop.com, or on Amazon, iTunes, stuff like that.
And I'll make sure you guys, we'll drop this in the show notes, a link directly to this book, because that's something that I'm honestly going to do. You know, I've done this before with my therapist. I see a therapist 2 times a month, and we've written down some names that I've had to personally, I haven't said nothing to them, but I've had to personally acknowledge, like, hey, these are the individuals who have hurt me. Not intentionally, but they have hurt me, and there are some things in there that I need to heal from. And so I would encourage you, if you're just now tuning in, to make sure that after you finish watching and listening to today's show, that you set aside some quality time to just write down who hurt you, how they hurt you. And then before you move on to the next step, pray over that list.
Absolutely.
You know, pray over that list. Ask God to bless them tremendously. I believe in praying more for the people who have hurt me, more for the people who have hurt me intentionally, my enemies, because I want them to be blessed, because I want God to bless me. So Stephan, when I end bad relationships, right? I don't say bad relationships. I've dated some amazing ladies, right? A lot of us have had some painful breakups, right? But how can we learn from the past relationships? Oftentimes I hear people saying, well, he did this or she did that, or he did that and she did this. Something that I'm doing is like, what did I do? And how can I learn from it? Do you think that's a good practice, or should we identify what they did and put the blame on them?
No, it is a best practice to evaluate our own behavior.
Okay.
Because what the hell do you learn if you just make it about them? and all you're gonna do is take their shortcomings and project it onto the next person.
Yeah.
Because now you're looking at, this is what people do, this is what men do, this is what women do. Nah, what could you have done better? And the reality is that there's always something that we can do better.
Yeah.
And understand that doing that evaluation does not say what they did is okay. It's not letting them off the hook. It's just empowering yourself to know how to better navigate situations. Maybe you didn't properly communicate things the way that you should have. Maybe you reacted poorly to some of the things. You know, there are various things you could have done better. And too many people just leave a relationship only blaming the other person. And that's why they stay in a cycle of failed relationships.
Bro, you got me thinking about me. The last relationship I was in, I was selfish. I was selfish. Stuck in my ways. I'm not old, man. In the world, I'm older. I'm 36, turning 37 in July. And I'm like, I walked away. When I hear her complaints, I was selfish. I would hear her say, this is what I had a problem with. And you know, as a communicator, another problem that I learned is, as a communicator, we tend to exaggerate things. You know, we tend to like tell these little small white lies. If it was 10 people, we'll say it was 10,000 people in a room. Or if it was this, it was that. And at the end of the day, it was a white lie. And it's like, now hearing you say that, it's like, okay, cool. Anthony, if you know you can tell white lies, if you know you're kind of selfish, you don't really do much, I don't even have time to focus on what she did. I'm so focused on making sure that I heal and that I fix these things. So when God blesses me with another opportunity, with another woman, that I'm not carrying that into the future.
Exactly.
And it's like, I can't even think about what she did, because I'm like, yo, what she made me realize about myself is true and it's real. And it hurts, man. I'm telling you, Stephan, it hurts. How do you deal with the pain when you identify, okay, this is what I did in a relationship? Like, that doesn't feel good, man.
Well, 2 things. One thing I feel the need to mention real quick.
Yeah.
This is especially for the men.
Okay.
So what I have realized in all my years of doing this is that men tend to forget that women typically are emotionally wired, or more emotionally wired.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, when she comes to you and expresses a concern, if that concern does not line up in your head logically, men tend to dismiss it. Okay.
Facts.
And they don't consider how she's feeling. And I want men to understand, you have to learn that we have to accept men and women are different. We are just built differently. And in understanding our differences, we can create more harmony with each other. When that woman says to you, this is how I feel. It's not about your logic at that point, bro. It's about how she feels. All right. And you got to tap into that in that moment. And if you say, well, how do I know she's not lying? Listen, if she's a good woman otherwise, then there's no reason to assume it's a lie right now. All right. If you know she has not been a problem for you, then don't project that negativity on her. Just take her as her expression at that moment and understand her emotion. So it's almost like if a woman says to you, I don't feel safe, but to you, I see no danger around. It's like, nah, you okay? Just keep going. And it's like, nah, but she's telling you she does not feel safe. As a man, you have to tap into that. Okay, baby, what can I do to help you feel safer? Or maybe, you know what? Since you don't feel safe, we're going to remove from this environment. And I think what happens is so many women feel dismissed and devalued because as men, again, we keep focusing on logic, but they're talking about their emotion, what they're feeling.
Yeah.
And that's real.
Right.
It may not be real to you in that moment, but that danger or her uncomfortableness in that moment is real to her. So you have to meet her there. All right. Now, going back to...
Bro, you just said a mouthful that I think... Man, I hope brothers just heard that because you just broke that thing down. And personally, I'm sitting there like, God, how you just said that is really how men process it. She says, I don't feel safe. So the protector in me looks at her environment like, you're crazy. You are perfectly 100% safe. But I'm looking at the logic, the practical on the outside, but I'm not looking at her heart.
Exactly.
I'm not looking at her mind. I'm not looking at her spirit. Before we go into the next thing, bro, how can men get better at looking at that? Like, how do we really, how can we step back as men and be like, yo, okay, she's not safe. There's clearly nothing wrong, but how do I better understand her internally so that way I can make her feel safe? Or in any other situation that I just can't process.
I think, one, just being aware of the issue, being aware of the fact that if she expresses a feeling of concern, listen. You know what I'm saying? That's all. Just listen and try to understand what is feeding that concern, all right? And even if in some cases she can't fully explain it, just honor it. Just honor it. Again, if anyone says, well, she might just be tripping, listen, if you have a good woman, why assume she's tripping? You see what I'm saying? Just trust it. And I'm a firm believer that, listen, I am a proponent of women's intuition. I believe in the power of it. And I believe we all have it, but women have it at a higher level. Exactly. And I do believe, because I'm all about balance. And I believe that God created us to balance each other out, not equal each other out. And so if my strength is logic, her strength is intuition. And so if we're walking together, yes, I'm looking for what I see, but she's going to pick up on what she feels. And I'm going to respect that just as much as what I see. You see what I'm saying? Because again, if I know that we are supposed to be together, which goes back to, are you even consulting with God if you should be with this person? But that's a whole nother discussion, all right? But if I know this is the woman God said this is for me, and she's telling me she feels some kind of way, I'm going to listen to that. And so as men, it's just practice. It's getting comfortable with that. I think, again, we are not taught this. We're not comfortable with this. We don't even understand the concept for a lot of guys.
Right.
But if now you're hearing this message, practice it. Also, talk to your woman and say, okay, listen, you know what? This is hard for me to understand. If you catch me dismissing you, remind me.
So good.
You know what I'm saying? Just build in little safety measures that bring us back to where we're trying to be in that moment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's how you get the ball rolling. And then at some point, you'll get so used to it that now you're in tune with your woman and it flows seamlessly.
So on the flip side, of the men's side, are we wrong for being logical?
No, we're not wrong for being logical. We just have to not be, and again, it may not be that our logic may, in some situations, may be more accurate than how she's feeling.
Right.
But we should never dismiss how she's feeling because it doesn't line up with our logic. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so in having simply a discussion, and that's the thing, it's all about communication. If you simply don't dismiss her in that moment and you talk to her, you guys may be able to talk through the situation, and now we go with the man's logic and, okay, listen, we can move forward. Trust me, I got you. You see what I'm saying? But the minute you dismiss her, you created a whole different issue. So now it's not just about how she felt in that moment. It's he don't care about how I feel. You see what I'm saying? And that will linger on into the relationship and now start to show its ugly face in a lot of various ways.
So what I hear you saying is, hear her, Show her that you're trying to understand her.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you do those two things, y'all can move forward.
Yes.
And then you both can decide, okay, is it best to go the logic way or is it best to go this way?
Exactly.
But you can't go nowhere if she doesn't feel heard and if she doesn't feel understood.
Exactly.
I got to work on that, y'all. I'm going to be 100. That's something I have to work on. I'm a logic guy. If it doesn't make sense to me, then I can, thanks, bro.
No problem, man.
I mean, that's real. But I think it's real that a man can acknowledge, like, yo, and my logic, bro, is not to dismiss because I am trying to protect her.
Mm-hmm.
But you just really said a mouthful right there, man. And I appreciate you for saying that. That's why you on the show. Real talk. That's why you on the show. So you talk a lot about self-love, man. And that's one thing I was talking about earlier before you just took us all over there to this side that we need to go to. About really self-love, self-evaluation. And sometimes when we identify something negative within inside of us, it's hard on us. Mm-hmm. And we tend to be our worst critic. We tend to get silent, and we tend to kind of push it up underneath the rug and never address it. How do we really start developing some healthy routes to really love ourselves, to fix the flaws within ourselves so we can be healthier when we do meet our special one?
So again, healing is step one.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It's really hard to love yourself when you haven't healed and remove all that negative energy, because again, that also can play into us having low self-esteem and just having these negative perceptions that now affect us in various amount of ways. So healing is number one. Really taking an inventory of, am I pouring happiness into my life? Like again, granted, a relationship is supposed to be two people pouring into each other, pouring into each other's needs and desires. Mm-hmm. But you've got to bring your happy self to the relationship, not your beat down self and expecting someone else to lift you up all the time. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So as you are single, as you're trying to love yourself, look at your life, take a step back. What am I doing to enjoy my life? Yeah. And I think it's very important, 'cause I know this is a show that you speak a lot about finances. Mm-hmm. As entrepreneurs or just even career workers, we can get so locked into career. Yeah. Ambitious people lack work-life balance a lot of times. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And then again, we try to have these relationships where we want people to fit into our life at our convenience. Yes. And that's not going to work. Yeah. So you've got to create that balance now and use that space that would be for your relationship for yourself in the moment. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Self-love is important, but I think that's something hard for all of us to do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think that's for ladies and for men. It is hard to really step back and love yourself. And I think and I could be wrong. I'm not the relationship expert, but I remember my younger days, I didn't love myself, so I would go over here to get love from her when it was a wrong relationship, but because she was willing to give me love, to make me feel loved, I was still missing something about myself. Mm-hmm. Because I couldn't go home and feel loved, feel appreciated, feel valued, and really love who I am. Which leads me to my next question, because I wrote this one down. I was watching one of your YouTube shows, and I was like, yo, this is so good. You encourage singles to know their values and to be themselves. Mm-hmm. Why is this so important for singles to get this now before they get into a relationship?
So it kind of goes back to that quote I used earlier. It's like, if you don't know who you are, then you don't know who belongs in your life. You know what I'm saying? So the reality is that too many people are trying to be something else that they're not. And sometimes for the sole purpose of getting this person they think they want. Yeah. And now you get them, and then years, months into the relationship, you realize you're not happy. You can't sustain this because it's not you. Mm-hmm. You know, and not only can you not sustain this, you don't like them that much anymore. Once the smoke clears, you're like, what the hell did I get myself into? You know what I'm saying? Because they don't really speak to your heart. They don't speak to who you truly are. Yep. And so there's no harmony there. So it's important to just find yourself and be confident in who you are. Everybody ain't for you, and you ain't for everybody. That's fine. But there will be someone who fits. You know, and that's what we want to be patient for and prepare for in the meantime. So it's definitely important to know ourselves and to know our value in understanding what we deserve. And I would say it's more important to know our value with the way God sees it. Okay. Because, society has a lot of different metrics for value. You know what I'm saying? And that can throw us off and cause a lot of people to settle.
Okay.
But you got to know what God says your value is. And more importantly, it's just about where does God want you to be?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you can sit here and say, I deserve this kind of man or this kind of woman. But if they're not really right for you, who cares? What are you aiming for? You know what I'm saying? It's like your happiness and peace is more important. You having your needs met is more important. Not what this person's resume looks like. So focus on connection. Focus on where God wants you to be. You know what I'm saying? Focus on the things that are truly important to the success of the relationship.
Yeah.
Too many people are caught up on what they think they want. They gotta have this, that. Man, that's what gets people in trouble. You know?
You know what? Let's flip it. I mean, let's flip the whole script. Because I think values line up with sometimes money. The Bible says where your treasure is, that's also where your heart is. I'm curious, why are you out here mentoring and counseling, couples and people who are in relationships? What are some of the most common money problems that you see come up?
The common money problem. Number one, just being broke and trying to date. All right?
Whoa. Okay. Whoa. You trying to tell me, okay, what's your definition of broke?
Broke is you cannot stand on your own 2 feet and take care of your bills and essentials. Not that you got to live a life of luxury or anything like that, but you on your own cannot survive. That's broke to me.
And they trying to date?
Yes. Now I'm gonna be real.
Okay.
And some people may disagree with this.
Okay.
I do think that a woman has more leeway in this department than a man does. All right. And so if I'm just gonna be real. I'm gonna be real. Like if you're a broke woman, you can pull it off. You really can. If you got some other stuff going on for you can still make it happen. So I would still say be careful because you don't want your brokenness to be dictating your decisions as far as who you get with. Because now if you need a man to survive, you may overlook some red flags in order to achieve that survival. So that's where it's risky.
Yeah.
But if you're not making those mistakes, let's say, for example, you live at home with your parents.
Yeah.
So technically you're broke because you can't survive on your own, right? But that situation does not lend towards you possibly choosing wrong because of your financial position, because you're still in a safe place. But as a man, if you're broke, whether you're broke living with your parents or anywhere, that's a problem. Trying to date while you're broke, because again, there's so many pitfalls being set up by that dynamic.
Yeah.
It's just, I could never condone it. I could never push it. Now, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
If you happen to find real love while you're broke, I'm not going to sit there and say you don't deserve to embrace that real love. But you should not be focused on finding a partner and searching for it and putting energy into it when you need to be putting energy into establishing yourself.
So let me just ask the question. Okay. Should a man be financially stable before he starts dating?
He should. I believe he should. I believe if he wants the best results possible, yes. Again, he don't got to be rich, but you got to be able to take care of yourself. If you need her to survive, and when I say her, any woman to come in your life to survive, that's a problem. Because here is what happens in a lot of situations. Men tend to pick women based on where they are in life. All right?
Okay.
Which is why you'll see the situations where guys who were once broke were with one kind of woman.
Yeah.
They get famous or rich, and now they switch up.
Right.
And people will say they switched up, and I say, no, they didn't switch up. Their true colors finally came out.
Yes.
They always wanted that woman.
Yes.
They could not afford that woman. All right? They were not in a position to get that woman. So they took what they can get. And unfortunately, they're taking that woman on the premise of what she can do for them, not what he will do for her. And so the relationship starts off with her basically putting him on her back, trying to drag him to the finish line, thinking she will be rewarded for her efforts when she ends up getting left for her efforts. And even if she's not left, he still ends up going out messing with the girls he really wants. All right? And so again, there's so many ways this goes left. Now, I always say this to a man: if you're gonna date while you're broke or you're not financially stable, you have to ask yourself, would you be with her if you were rich? And if you can say that this is the woman you would want,
Yeah.
Even if you had the success you desire,
Right.
okay, you're good. You can move forward, at least in regards to that specific issue.
Right.
But let me give you a different issue that can come up.
Okay.
If you start off not being the financially stable one, and that woman is financially stable or successful, whether she wants to admit it or not, you are a project.
Ooh.
You are a child in her eyes that she is going to raise into a man.
Ooh.
All right? And the problem now is this.
Wait, hold on. I gotta ask this question. What? You just said if the brother is not financially stable and the woman is financially stable, the woman is going. The majority of ladies in this single season, they're going to be looking at that's a project for them. Oh man, that just hit me hard.
And the reason it's important, and some women say, "Oh no, I'm not looking at him like that." Subconsciously, you are. Subconsciously, you're viewing him as someone I have to mold or build or get there. All right. And unfortunately, so let me say this and I'll continue.
Yeah.
I believe that for a relationship to be successful, the woman has to be able to look up to the man. Not as in he is greater than her, so to speak, but she has to revere him, respect him.
Absolutely.
She has to feel like, I can learn something from this man.
Yeah.
Not that I have to teach him and drag him to the finish line. So when you start off that way, she might be willing to be with you. But now the problem is, how much will she respect you along the way?
Wow.
Also, as a man, will you still be driven enough to achieve your dreams, if you even had any?
Right.
Because some women are trying to pour into a man who has no plan and no dreams himself.
Wow.
If you don't ever get there, resentment will now kick in. And if you are now you're basically being rewarded for your bad behavior. What I mean by that is you have not established yourself as a man. And let's make something clear. You are not entitled to a relationship. Everyone says, well, everyone deserves to be loved. Absolutely.
Right.
Every human being deserves to receive love, but not a damn relationship. Not a committed, I'm going to pour into you, be committed to you, feel all your needs. You don't deserve that yet. You ain't qualified. You are not qualified. That's like everyone saying, well, everyone deserves $1 million job. No, you have to meet certain qualifications. So yes, I don't think you should not be loved, quote unquote.
Right.
But you are not entitled to that. So let's bring it back. The point is that if she gets with you while you're down there and you're up here, I've seen one situation, not just one, I've seen many situations, where in some instances, she only got with you when you were broke because she was going to have power in the situation. And so now, I know one guy specifically coming to mind. He actually did continue to work. And he finally achieved his dreams and he became more successful than the woman. Then he says she started to act funny. When he wanted to pay the bills, she's like, why are you trying to pay the bills? And he's like, yo, I'm trying to make sure like you took care of me. I want to take care of you. Everything got thrown off. Eventually they had to get a divorce because she was never trying to actually have him be in that position. It's almost like on a simpler level. This is going to sound bad, but this is truth. There are some women who don't want their man to start working out and get in shape because to them, if you start looking too damn good, I gotta worry about all these other women, all right? And not only do I have to worry about these other women, I have to now look at myself in the mirror and question if I'm of the standard that you. Yeah, exactly. So let me keep you down there and tell you, nah, go eat this donut. Go have some fried chicken. Like, go ahead.
Because ladies are the only ones where looks are not really that important to ladies.
I see, and that's. I'm not gonna say it's a myth. I'm gonna say it's a misunderstanding.
I think ladies can do that more than men.
Yes, it is less important to women than men.
Yes.
But in a lot of situations, it still has a significant impact. What we're confusing is this. There was a study once done where they asked, I forgot how many women, but they showed them a man who was chiseled, amazing body, and a quote-unquote dad bod, right? And they said, which one would you pick for a one-night stand? Which one would you pick for marriage?
Okay.
They picked the chiseled body for one-night stand. They picked the dad bod for marriage, all right? Overwhelmingly.
Real?
Yes. So what that says to me is that you're more attracted to the body that's in shape, but you feel more emotionally safe with the dad bod, all right? You don't want to have to deal with that guy who's looking too good. And this is not every woman, but this is a lot of women. It is easier for them, which is why a lot of women, whether subconsciously or consciously, date men who are below them. And that stems from, again, their struggle with their value. So, man, there's so much we can talk about. So here's the thing that I have to say right now.
Yeah.
Society has now created a situation where women are valuing themselves in the same way they value or evaluate men's value. Education, money, success.
Yeah.
So here's what happens now. If in a situation occurs where a woman is not educated, she didn't go to college, maybe she has a low-paying job, and she meets this very successful man, and he actually falls for her, she questions, why me? Why would he choose me? Because to her, I don't have the value that could get this kind of man. But what she doesn't understand is the value he sees in you isn't attached to those things.
Yeah.
It's your feminine energy. It's his attractiveness to you. It's how you make him feel. It's all those other things. So many women are now placing their values in the wrong thing, that now they don't know how to properly value themselves in a relationship. And so now if you think your success and all this stuff makes you valuable, again, when you get with this guy who has less than you, you feel superior.
Yeah.
And by feeling superior, you feel safer. The mentality is he has to appreciate me. He lucky that I'm in his life, all right? So I don't gotta worry about him like I gotta worry about the guy who has options and has so much going on for himself. So again, subconsciously, they choose the lesser. And that's a problem. And again, it's lack of healing. It's lack of properly evaluating our values as men and women. There's so much more to it. But again, to get back to the original part, men dating while they're broke, it's just risky business. It's risky business. And again, I've also seen situations where the respect never developed. So she started off not really respecting you because you were at this lower level, even though she accepted you. And she tolerated you, all right? But she never fully respected you. And so as relationship goes along, that never develops. And now what happens is that lack of respect turns into lack of intimacy, turns into how she talks to you. And what I always find is if a man doesn't feel respect in the relationship, he now, like, basically, if he's been emasculated, or what I like to call his balls have been chopped off multiple times over and over again, he will try to reattach his balls at the wrong time, all right? He will try to assert himself and be the man. And in doing it, he's gonna do it in a way that's gonna wreak more havoc in the relationship. So now you have two people going back and forth, always clashing, but the core issue is there was never any respect.
And so I'm hearing you, and what I'm hearing is use your singleness and steward it correctly and get your life in a better place.
Yeah.
And if you have your life in a better place financially, if you're financially stable, it's going to help you to have better options.
Yeah. And I would say this, at the worst case scenario for men, you have to at least have your plan and vision in place.
I like it.
All right?
I like it.
So even if you're
like
broke,
it.
I do believe that if a woman can see that you have plan and vision, and that you have enough ambition to stand on your own 2 feet as far as putting in the effort, that can be respected. But if she has to be the one that does the work for you, if she has to be the one that drags you to the interviews and does this, that's the problem. So, and a lot of men who say, well, these women don't want to build with you. You have to lay the foundation first. That's all I'm asking for. Because without that, it's going to be a disaster.
Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. If you can't talk to each other, then you shouldn't be together. I firmly believe that, because the reality is that communication is key in any relationship. And if you're going to have happiness and success,